Joining me right now is Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Newt, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Your take on all of this morning.
Well, first of all, I think once again we're seeing the difference between Trump's results and the resistance on the other side. This is a major win for the president, a major win for what he campaigned on. And I think that the industrial workers who gave him that margin in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania are going to feel very good. In addition, from a Governor Walker standpoint in Wisconsin, he's the guy who got the president turned on about Canada's cheating on dairy. And this will be a big win for Governor Walker and for President Trump in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But let me switch to Kavanaugh.
All right. Well, let me just end this on the trade deal, because there are worries that the midterm elections creates the House being flipped. Do you have any worry that this deal doesn't get signed by Congress because we don't know what the Congress will look like?
Yeah. Look. I think we're in the middle of a huge cultural civil war between results and resistance. I think if you have Speaker Pelosi, this deal's in big trouble, and I think that we have to be honest about that. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about, because I think almost all of us who are reasonable are sleepwalking during a vicious, deliberate character assassination program by the left. When people like Senator Booker say you are complicit with evil if you favor Kavanaugh, the rest of us ought to understand what they're telling us. I just want your indulgence for 1 second. I printed this out, which I as you know, never do. This is a quote. Your purpose, then, plainly stated, is that you will destroy the government unless you be allowed to construe and enforce the Constitution as you please. On all points in dispute between you and us, you will rule or ruin in all events. This was triggered. This is Lincoln at Cooper Union, February 1860, and Byron York's column this morning, that the Democrats are now switching to whether or not Judge Kavanaugh misled us when he talked about how much he drank. Tells you this is a vicious, deliberate campaign to destroy a human being over power. And the Democrats, I think, should be repudiated by the entire country for what they're doing.
It's just extraordinary. I mean, the Supreme Court begins the fall term today without the ninth justice because they're accusing, Republicans and the White House of restricting the scope of the FBI and trying to destroy this person's life. So Senate Judiciary member, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham joined me on Sunday. He says he's going to find out who behind Dr. Ford's back leaked the letter to the press, and he wants to find out why Dianne Feinstein helped Ford get a lawyer. Here's Senator Graham. Listen to this.
I'm going to find out why she did not know her options. I'm going to find out who in Feinstein's staff recommended Katz to be Dr. Ford's lawyer. It's improper for senators to recommend lawyers to constituents. I'm going to try to find out who betrayed Dr. Ford's trust to remain anonymous. The person who sent this anonymous, destroyed her trust, betrayed her request to be anonymous, had a political agenda. I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
So, Newt, were there laws broken?
Of course there were laws broken, or at least Senate rules that were broken. Of course, decency was broken. I mean, she was being hidden at her parents' beach house, apparently in Delaware. Well, I assume the Democratic staff knew that. Look, here's the one thing, and I want to give Lindsey Graham a big shout-out. He is the one member of the Senate Judiciary Committee who has seen what's really going on. The fact is, this has nothing to do with the rule of law in the normal way. It has nothing to do with the normal Senate. There is a vicious, deliberate character assassination campaign led by Chuck Schumer and Dianne Feinstein. It is a total war, and until Republicans understand, they're not up against normalcy. They're up against people who will do anything to win and who are determined to destroy what Trump is doing. And not just Trump, they're deciding which America we're going to be.
Right.
The America that gets a deal with Mexico and Canada, or an America that disrupts everything. And they are prepared to break the system if that's what it takes.
I think when Lindsey Graham spoke, Dagan, we both said it. I mean, he said things that a lot of people were thinking.
Absolutely.
Right. And I wish the other senators, look, I wish the senators across the board would recognize that they are in a life and death struggle with a militant left which is prepared to invade your elevator, prepared to invade your restaurant, prepared to chase you down on the street.
That's absolutely
Talk about bullying. Remember all the worries liberals had about bullying? Well, the bullies in America today are on the left, and they have to be stopped.
Yeah, 100%.
But to your point, Newt, nothing is going to satisfy these left-wing nuts who are in the Senate, who are in Congress.
Right.
As you pointed out, they want Brett Kavanaugh investigated for lying under oath because of the way he talked about his drinking and his high school yearbook, the little phrases in his high school yearbook. 1 week, an investigation by the FBI, it's not going to be enough. Now they're attacking him for his temperament because they've tried to destroy his life and his family and everything he's ever worked for, and he's upset about that, but now he doesn't have the temperament to be on the Supreme Court. Oh, and he also shouldn't be allowed to coach girls basketball.
Yeah,
that was an op-ed that was in in USA Today over the weekend.
This is just outrageous. And the question becomes, Newt, is this going to impact the midterm elections? House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy was with me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, and he said things have changed. Listen to this. Over the preceding weeks, a lot of people have been saying, oh, it's in the bag, the House is going to flip. Has that changed?
I think it's changed drastically. We look at just the absentee ballots, those who are requesting ballots prior. That has increased over the last week. We look at volunteerism coming into the campaign. We look at things that are happening online. We raised $15 million that night for people across the country, but the difficulty is when you have liberal billionaires willing to write a $100 million check at the time, that's very difficult to try to equal the playing field. That's why, how do we equal the playing field? Results versus resistance. The results of this economy, better than we've seen in the last 50 years.
Newt, is that going to be enough going into the midterm elections? He said things have changed drastically. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think Kevin McCarthy is basically right. And look, I think election night 2018 will be as big a shock to the left and to the news media as election night 2016. Because the issue here, let me be very clear.
Yeah.
The issue here is not Donald J. Trump. The issue here is, which America do you want? Do you want an America where people bully you in a restaurant? Do you want an America where people destroy you, ruin 35 years of public service? Do you want an America in which the left defines everything, and in which what we get is resistance rather than results?
Right. Do you want an America that throws away due process, Lee Carter?
Right.
No, I mean, one of the things that I find astounding right now is the tactics of the left right now are to shame people on the right. And what we've seen before is that when you shame people, when you say you should, how dare you, how could you possibly think these things, what ends up happening is the right gets motivated and they go out and they vote. And that's what happened in 2016 after a basket full of deplorables, and it's what's going to happen today, because you should never tell people what they should have to think, and it's just simply not going to work. And the notion that women are just going to vote based on this issue because they're women is false. When you look at 83% of Republican women who are surveyed say they support Kavanaugh, not Ford. And I think it's really important that we don't take for granted that it's going to be women.
All right, we'll leave it there. Newt Gingrich, real quick, final word.
Well, look, I think this is the most important election in defining America that we have had in my lifetime. I think it's literally that desperate.